Hey, what's going on, my fellow idiots? Welcome back for another episode of Idiot Proof Cooking. So we're making some pizza today, and it's one of my favorites. Pan pizza, you know, like the stuff that you get at Pizza Hut. It's got to be one of my favorite places to get a pie. Damn if it's not greasy, but oh, it is so good. And I wanted to make some pan pizza for you on the channel here, so let's get into making it. Okay, so let's start off by making the dough for our pan pizza. Into a bowl, we're going to add in 2 cups of bread flour, then a half teaspoon of instant yeast. Next, we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and then a tablespoon of olive oil, so pour that in. Last but not least, we're going to add in 3/4 of a cup of warm water. I had mine heated to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I'm going to use this wooden spoon here and then just mix this all together until we form a shaggy dough. Now, normally what I do is make my pizza dough in a stand mixer, but I wanted to show you that, you can mix it by hand if you just want to use a little bit of elbow grease. So after you've formed the shaggy dough, it's time to discard with the wooden spoon and then just start kneading this by hand. And honestly, this is going to be a bit of a workout because you're going to want to knead the dough for the next 7 to 10 minutes. So, you're going to develop a sweat, that's for sure. So just keep kneading it in the bowl is the best way to knead it because then you don't make a mess all over your cutting board. So anyways, after 7 to 10 minutes of kneading, the dough should pass the window pane test, where if you stretch a piece of the dough out in between your fingers, you should be able to see light through the dough without it ripping. Once it passes the window pane test, it's time to form the dough into a tight ball and then get yourself out a piece of Tupperware because we're going to let the dough cold ferment in our fridge for at least 24 hours. So throw in a tablespoon of olive oil, throw your dough ball in, swirl it around, and then cover the Tupperware with a lid and stick the dough in the fridge for the next 24 hours, if not 48 or 72 hours. Cold fermentation really improves the flavor of your dough. So after a day, I've got my 10-inch cast iron pan here and I'm greasing the walls and the bottom of it with some olive oil because it's time to start preparing this pizza. Now I've got my dough ball here after 24 hours of cold fermentation. What I did is I left it out at room temperature for about an hour, hour and a half just to let it warm up to room temperature, and all we're going to do is drop it into our cast iron pan and start stretching it out until it reaches all sides of the pan. Now if the dough fights you a little bit, like it could be like really stretchy and wants to shrink, all you got to do is cover the dough with a tea towel, let it rest for 30 minutes and then try again. Now my dough wasn't too stretchy, so I didn't have to let the glutens relax. They were already fairly relaxed. So all we're going to do now is let the dough rise for the next hour to an hour and a half until it gets nice and puffy like this. All you got to do is cover it in a tea towel and stick it in a warm, dry spot. So now that that's done, it's time to start preparing our pizza. What we're going to do is start off with a base layer of shredded mozzarella. Don't use the pre-bagged stuff and use full-fat mozzarella. You'll want to use a few handfuls of the mozzarella and make sure the dough is completely covered in it, and also make sure some of the mozzarella gets along the edge of the pan so that it crisps up when you're baking it. And then it's time to throw some pizza sauce on top. Now for the sake of expediency, I didn't show you the recipe to make pizza sauce. I will throw some links in the description on how to make a pretty good pizza sauce, but all we're going to do is dollop some of the pizza sauce on top of the mozzarella and then finish it off with another handful of mozzarella. This is going to be super cheesy. And then finally, I'm going to throw pepperoni on top of all of this. You can throw whatever toppings you want on by all means, but I'm using pepperoni. From here, all you got to do is preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit and bake the pizza on a middle rack for the next 20 to 22 minutes until it comes out nice and golden brown and bubbly and sizzling like that. Look at that. Look at how gorgeous that is. It's puffed up quite nicely. Now, obviously, as you can see, it's sizzling. It is piping hot. So I'm going to let this cool down for, I'd say, 5-10 minutes before we crack into it. But man, does that not look good. So after 10 minutes, you can see it sunk down just a little bit. So I'm going to use my offset spatula and run it along all of the sides of the pan just to make sure I unstick the pizza from it. And then comes the challenge of trying to get it out. So just kind of use your spatula and yeah, that worked. I mean, yeah, just kind of throw the pizza out of the pan. It was kind of a haphazard move, but it worked. So let me give you a close-up shot of the pizza here. look at that. Look at the nice little char along the crust. Look at that. It's a little bit droopy. Some of the cheese drooped down the side, but that's okay. It doesn't have to look perfect. But let's get out this awesome pizza knife here that Meg bought me a few months ago, and it's time to cut into this. All right, I'm going to cut myself off some slices. Look at that dough. Oh, man, it is super hot. Wow, is it ever hot. But I got to get in there. Look at that nice puffy pan pizza dough. And for the first bite, besides the fact that I was biting into lava, it was so hot, it was so damn good. Man, pan pizza is so good. The edge of the crust and underneath was nice and crunchy, but the center of the dough was nice and fluffy because, you know, it rises and gets nice and puffy. Pan pizza is so good. In the cheese and the sauce and the pepperonis, everything about this was super delicious. Even despite the fact that I was burning the hell out of my hand and the roof of my mouth, sometimes you just gotta go for it and enjoy the hot pizza, and that's what I did here. This was so good. So good. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to just cut this into smaller pieces here so that Rose can enjoy some in a little bit. But anyways, that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you like what you saw here. This was super easy to make. I highly recommend you try making it, and I highly recommend you cold ferment your dough because it really improves your pizza. But let's call it there. I hope you like what you saw, and if you did, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking. We'll see you again soon.